You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. My feet have come too far for you to tie 'em to the ground. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Set my sights on where I'm going at and turn it back around. You can't stop me.
Good evening, welcome to Psych Golf Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and with me in the co-host seat tonight is Amanda with her new book, 5 Minutes to Happiness. This is interesting. Feeling better in 5 minutes, working with your emotional self. How did you get into this? Because this is kind of an interesting idea of feeling better in 5 minutes. Because you start out, talking about being a hot mess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was very much a hot mess. Very much a hot mess. So, I was a typical stressed out suburban mom, and a friend said, you should try energy healing. And I was like, I had tried, short of medications, I had tried pretty much everything else. And I thought, well, sure, why not? Let's just give this a whirl. So I went to one session with this healer, and I felt so much better afterwards. And I was like, wow, I just feel amazing. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to go back because this might be a track for me to actually make some progress in my life and find some purpose and just not be depressed in general. And at the second session, the healer, she said, well, all of your chakras want to open at once. And I said, well, I don't know what a chakra is. Sure, that sounds good. Whatever. Yeah. Whatever. I trust you. And I had this experience of laying there on this table. And then all of a sudden I feel like, the amount of terror I had was like someone was chasing me, trying to kill me. I mean, that was just like the terror that came over me. And then my whole body tensed up and I was screaming and felt like I was burning from the inside out. My temperature shot up. I was sweating. And I don't know how long it lasted. It was probably about 30 seconds though. And then I fell flat on the table and felt like I'd been hit over the head. And said, well, what happened? She said, well, if your chakra's open. I'm like, that tells me absolutely nothing. But I went outside, walked around in the grass like she instructed me, went home, got up the next day, felt worse, and it just kind of spiraled from there. I started hearing voices and seeing things, and all of my past traumas from my childhood and past lives and all this stuff started coming up, and it all blurred together. And it was kind of disastrous, honestly, for about 6 months. So it was a mess. It was a mess.
Have you heard of Sandy Anastasia? She's she's a medium and a psychic in Tampa, Florida. She has the Anastasia method. She went through the exact same thing for about 6 months. Of the best way she said, she felt like she was walking in terror, on eggshells, and on air at the same time. Yeah. And that's how she opened up psychically. The only experience I've had like that myself was Reiki. I will never do Reiki again. It felt like someone was trying to rip out my solar plexus.
Wow.
No, thank you. Leave my chakras the way they are. They'll open and close as they need to. Has always been my view of it. Of course, I'm sure now you've learned that chakras are energy centers through the body, and a lot of people talk about the main 9, but there's actually like hundreds of them, and it's just extrasensory and all that. So have you had any more other experiences with that since then?
As far as having that sort of like being blown wide open, no, not that. I mean, I've had other experiences. I mean, that's been about 15 years ago. So, 6 months after that, I had 3 giant angels show up in my living room and tell me they were going to teach me how to heal people, which I was like, everybody's going to think I'm completely insane. And so I argued with them for a while and looked for, training and all of that. Couldn't find anything that fit. And I said, fine, you guys train me, So then people started showing up in my life that needed help, and they just started appearing out of nowhere, friends and family and just everybody. And that I basically had on the job training from angels and my spirit guides as they cycled through over the years. Cause you start out with one, it was like the orientation group, here,
Right.
let's show you around these different realms, let's show
Yeah.
you the books. And then you get a different set, when you get to a certain level. And so it's been interesting for sure, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's also, it's a lot to filter through at times,
It is. It is a lot to filter through, especially when people do not get, like, I make comments all the time. I can't go on vacation. I literally booked a place in Ohio, a lovely cabin in the woods, going to have a lovely wood vacation, do some hiking. There is no phone, no internet, nothing. Tell my guides, I'm on vacation. Go like listen to sermons, go talk to Elvis. I don't care. We were off to a job for 2 weeks, and they went, "Uh huh,
Yeah.
sure, honey, sure."
Yeah, they don't really believe in that. Yeah, I've tried to get away a couple times, and I ended up last time I went somewhere. I ended up staying overnight at this hotel, and there were all these entities in this hotel, and I was like, "Look, I'm not here. I just want to sleep. Like, please leave me alone." And they attacked me all night, and I had to deal with that. And I'm just going, And then they sent me the thing in my email. How was your stay? I'm like, you don't want to know. Like, I'm just not even gonna say.
My recommendation and I've said this into hotel review, into those emails, it is my recommendation that you quickly train your housekeeping staff in the proper way of saging, and I will gladly come up there and do it. Here is my address. Your place is a mess.
Exactly. Yes, that's I wanted to send that, but I was like, yeah, okay. I'm just gonna move on. But it's interesting. It's interesting to have for sure.
Have you gotten to the point now where you have places like routine travel and everything? You have Pacific hotels that you have to stay at because otherwise you'll get no rest?
I haven't had that experience yet. I mean, I haven't really been traveling that much, but when I go to certain cities, I'm like, oh, okay, I actually slept well there. Okay, I'm going to stay there again. But sometimes it's just the room. Somebody's been in there that has had, lots of negative energy. They had a fight in the room, whatever, and you feel it. And you're like, okay, I have to clear the room out. I have to, clear up the different levels of the room out, and I've had some crazy things like that I've had to deal with. So,
oh yeah, it's always fun. In our business, it is. So feel better in 5 minutes, and empowerment guide to gaining control over your own emotions. You say that our emotions are something we experience, not who we are.
Right.
How does the shifting for you work? Because I hear it described a few different ways about shifting your emotions, taking control of them.
Right. So I think it's really multifaceted, and it kind of depends on where you're coming from in your experience of dealing with your emotions. And, the whole idea that we aren't our emotions, I think, is a really important one, because people come, when we, in the English language anyway, say, I am depressed, I am sick, I am angry, I am. So when we're saying that I am, it kind of really weaves that into our energy system and puts it into our psyche, our subconscious, as it's who we are versus what we're experiencing. So when I start working with someone that just says, well, that's just how I am, I'm like, well, is it though? It's let's think of it a different way. Let's just change the verbiage to start with. Sure. And instead of saying I am depressed or whatever you're going to say, just say, I am experiencing depression, or I am experiencing anxiety. I am experiencing illness, versus I am that. Because when you go to try to release that energetically, it's very, very difficult, because your subconscious and your energy system and the universe, all that's like, well, you're saying you are that, then you can't release yourself from yourself. Like, that's impossible, right? And so helping people shift that basic thought process and perspective, I find, is really helpful, because people walk through this world thinking there's something wrong with them. And what I always tell people is there's nothing wrong with you as a person, as a soul, as a being. What the issue is, it's like, you don't walk into a room that's full of junk and say, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this room? You're like, no, it's full of crap. Like, there's stuff in it. Like, you have to clear the room out, And so the thought process of, okay, you just have to clear things out. It's not that there's something wrong with you fundamentally as a being. So that's an important thought process for people to start with. And then all of the techniques really come from an energetic perspective. We wrap the psychological in there too, because it's, everything's intertwined, body, mind, spirit. But as far as the techniques, they're really based on energetic principles, because, we notice, we don't walk around saying, oh, my aura is so heavy today. Oh, my solar plexus chakra is just, oh, it's not spinning in the right direction.
Depending. Now, Reiki wands, I promise you, the people that don't take Reiki wand for the first 6 months, then they're learning, they do this, and I'm like, will you just stop there? You'll get over this verbiage. Here's another book. Go learn this.
Exactly. No, I do have that experience with people, and they're like, they'll say, I'm a Reiki master. I'm like, cool, and they'll say something like, yeah, I took all the levels in a weekend. I'm like, awesome. And what are you going to say? And not that there's anything wrong with Reiki. I don't have a problem with it, but from the standpoint of the thought process, you can become a master in a weekend is definitely a misnomer. And I don't think it's very safe.
I highly refuse. I refuse to teach it in a weekend.
Yeah.
Like all 4 levels. 2, I highly suggest that people take at least a year between each level, because out of all the training I've done, I've done Hands of Light, I've done Kalami, I've done clairvoyant training, tarot training. Reiki training will fuck with you.
Yeah.
In multiple ranges for and I'm whatever it is we're having it, great, don't care about it. Reiki level 2, I couldn't stand the smell of cooked meat at all for like 6 months.
Wow, really?
Really. It's like, get that away from me. I don't want to smell it.
Interesting.
Luckily, my partner at the time literally only eats like 2 things, and it was like, just go microwave your dinner. I am not making it.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. I haven't had, Reiki training. I haven't had, I would say early training of any type. It's all been angelic, spirit guides, that kind of thing. I did get the Hands of Light book. If I had gotten it when it was suggested to me, I would have felt a lot less crazy, because it was a couple months after I went to a healer, and she said, she goes, you need to get this book. And I was thinking, lady, I am good to make it through the day. Like, I don't have time to read. Like, I'm purging entities left and right. I am, dealing with my PTSD spiral episodes left and right. It's just, I'm like, I do not have time to read. I don't care. I really didn't care at that point, but it was all about survival day to day. And so these techniques that I've got in the book have come from that process of releasing emotions and learning the different things that work quickly versus something that takes like 30 minutes. I mean, nobody has time for that. Very few people do. So
very few people do. And this is the thing that gets me. A lot of the information that we have in the metaphysical community come from people that were able to spend a lifetime working on it.
Right.
When it comes to like a single mother with 5 children trying to process crystal information and learn tarot, and at the same time dealing with an awakening, and oh, by the way, let's just throw a vortex in your living room for the hell of it.
I have been there. Yes.
You ain't got time to go and read, go through a library of 4 bookcases to find which book it is you need to find the tea to calm down your 3-year-old who's teething.
Exactly.
And I don't think, and I like your book for this reason. It's 5 minutes, a lot of 5-minute techniques. It's quick, it's fast. This is for someone that doesn't need to understand the biometrics of emotions and how they can cross affect the body. The point is, they affect the body. Deal with it. This is how you deal with it.
Yep. And that was really the thought process when I was writing the book, because I could get into the nitty gritty of all that stuff. I mean, I'm into quantum mechanics. I'm into psychology. I'm into energy, and I thought, the goal of the book was to get people efficacy, to get them to a point of feeling better quickly, not like what is all of the nitty-gritty detail that's involved in those pieces, because you don't really care. If you feel bad, if you feel like crap, you just want to feel better. Like that's it. Like that's it. It's kind of like these exercises are a little bit like taking a pill, you know. But it's in a good way because it digs deeper. You know, when you're when you're working with emotions and you say, you know, I choose to release this anxiety, and you add on and whatever it's attached to, you're pulling that deeper stuff out a little bit at a time without having to really think about it and dig in. And eventually, if you're struggling with talk therapy, if you're struggling with being able to really dig in and, you know, past shame and all those other emotions that cause us to stay in those stuck places, the energy work starts to work on those deeper levels so that you can go to talk therapy and it be effective. You know, I've had a lot of clients say, you know, I've done 5 years of therapy and I haven't gotten as far as I have with 1 or 2 energy sessions. And I'm like, well, that's because it's digging past, you know, it does the work whether you want it to or not, you know.
And it gets you out of the way. It gets that, you know, you were talking a moment ago about I am, and I think that is probably the most powerful statement in the world. And people don't get this. You focus your world, and I believe it is I believe it may be the King James or New Version, that I am is the name of God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it lays into the words I am is authority upon all. So when you say I am depressed, well, you're just owning that one. You just moved in, set up house, put up a teepee, put on some lights, you know, and you got to change that. Now, you talk about emotional imprints here.
Mm-hmm.
What's your view of them? Where do they come from? What are they? You know, because you talk to 40 different people, you have 40 different ideas of it. What's yours?
Right. So my thought process with that, you know, when I was writing this book, I was trying to think of a way to, well, I mean, it was my thoughts and my guides combined, right? But I was trying to think of a way to help people understand turn it into a concrete concept, because, you know, people are used to seeing things, touching things, smelling things, tasting things, you know? And so when you talk about energy and emotions, a lot of times it feels like it's just kind of in the ether floating around. So the idea is with emotional imprints is that it really is kind of like a stamp on your energy system. It's something that if you have a trauma happen to you, like I use the idea of a car accident often with people. I say, okay, say you have a car accident, right? And you have that impact and it's stressful and it's traumatic. And the idea that it's just a car accident and nothing else is really going into it is completely not true, because everything that happened in that moment, in that day, is going to be grouped into that same trauma bucket. You know, what you had for breakfast and lunch that day. If you had, you know, it at 2 p.m., you may start having anxiety at 2 p.m. and not even think about it. You may be wearing, you may have been wearing like a purple shirt and all of a sudden you can't stand the color purple. You have no idea why, or that shirt makes you break out in hives, or the color car that hit you was green and now you can't stand the color green, or it gives you anxiety. I mean, it's just the song that's playing on the radio. I mean, all these things that you don't think about get grouped into the same bucket and it gets stamped on your energy system. But it's kind of like if you throw a rock in a river, the water is not going to flow around that rock the same as if it wasn't there. And even if you remove the rock, now there's a divot where the water was going through. So it's going to imprint your energy system, and it causes a distortion in how the energy flows through your energy system. And it creates this lens, right? Your perspective changes. You know, if you have a car accident in a certain intersection, you know, you're going to always be super diligent when you go through that intersection, but you can let go of the trauma, the emotional imprint. You can let go of all the energy in that and still just have the wisdom from that experience and the knowledge that, hey, I do need to pay a little more attention when I'm driving, you know, kind of thing, versus being crippled to the point where you can't drive. I've seen people, you know, do that where they're just like, I can't drive anymore. It's just, I get too anxious, but that can be cleared, you know, as you work over time. So,
do you find that you sometimes hit past life impressions on them also?
Absolutely. Yes. There's definitely a link in that. I didn't go into that in the book because this is kind of like a toe dip book. You know, this was kind of one of those.
This is a taster, y'all. She's got at least 2 more books coming out, and one of them better be a healing system, or I don't know. I'm going to go down and send David over to have a conversation with her gods at her computer. But
yes, no, it's definitely, things like that are definitely in the works, because there are systems that I use, and they're not the same on everybody, but there's a basic protocol. So I do find that past lives do rope into this quite a bit, especially with fear, or if somebody's like deathly afraid of spiders and they really have no reason to be deathly afraid of spiders. Yeah, they're probably bitten by one in a past life and died or something, or a family member was, or a lot of times I'll see traumas that were in someone else's life, like a parent's life. And at that same age, that person, they'll have something happen. Sometimes it's just the age. They'll start having issues of like, they'll have nightmares of something happening to them. And they're like, I don't know why I'm having these nightmares all of a sudden, and sometimes it's entities and things like that influencing dreams. But a lot of times it's just, they're carrying the energy of their mother or their grandmother or something like that. There's a biology component, that energy gets passed down because we're present in our grandmother, and then it gets passed down. So I do see past life stuff. I see ancestral stuff. There's a lot of those kind of things that can actually be present in the imprints. And you can also be, just inherently wired a certain way energetically. People are usually either grounded or ungrounded when they come in general, depending on when their initial traumas occurred. That's kind of going to the Barbara Ann Brennan thought process, but I've found that it's really accurate. I read something and I go, oh, that's interesting, and then I start kind of looking for it. And sometimes I see it and sometimes I don't, but that book is definitely,
that's a game changer one.
Yeah.
Barbara Ann Brennan's works are a game changer for a lot of people. So my co-host, I pick at him all the time because he's had 2 neck fusions. He's in his mid-40s. He's had 2 neck fusions. I keep telling him he stole horses too much in his past life and got hung at least twice, possibly more times. You go into this in the book talking about how things in our energy field actually start imprinting into our physical systems.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I've seen that over and over again with people's physical health, just an easy example is, a lot of women, I normally see it in women, very rarely do I see it in men, the thyroid disorder, and usually they've been silenced their whole life. They've been with a narcissistic parent or partner or both, and they haven't spoken up. They've just retreated. And by doing that, they're really impairing their ability to speak up and speak their truth. And so that chakra just shrivels up, that's the energetic component of that. And then it can manifest as, thyroid disorder, thyroid disease. And, that stress in turn impacts other endocrine organs and, your stomach lining and all that. It just plays on each other.
Plays on everything. And then you add into it the extra things I see there all the time is laryngitis, tonsillitis as children. They will have constant throat problems that lead into one thing, into another. And it's like, so when's the last time you told somebody off? Is my normal question. And they're like, oh, I could never. And I'm like, go curse somebody out. Go find a perfect stranger, curse them out, you'll feel better. And they're like, you're crazy. I'm like, yeah, but go try it.
Yeah, go try it. When I tell people if they're very timid, if they don't like the confrontation, I said, just take a picture of the person you want to yell at and set it up there on your counter and yell at it. Start there. Just start there. If you don't want to do it to their face, start there, and some people come back, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I said, or write it out, write them a long letter, just vent, curse, whatever you got to do to get some of that energy out. Because having repressed anger and repressed resentment towards someone, what that happens is, you're beating yourself up internally because you've got this, you're like, oh, I can't say anything, or, I'm not a good person, whatever. And so what that does eventually is it really, that tends to manifest as autoimmune disorders. Whenever you have that internal repression inside yourself and the internal beating up, it's pretty, it gets serious.
It gets very serious. It gets very tore up. Something I do is I tell them to print out a picture everyone has a Facebook, so you can get multiple pictures. Write out everything on the back of the picture. Tear it up into little shreds. Throw it in a balloon. Take it over to only $1. Have them blow it up. Then release it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great one. Yes.
And that's the important part there is releasing up that built-in energy, because it's just like, I don't know, sometimes, and I know why we in this country have so much back problems, because we're dragging around steamer trunks of trauma and crap and memories. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you carrying around your ex-boyfriend that you dumped 6 years ago? And what's even worse is when they're still having his t-shirt in the closet because it's soft and fuzzy.
Right.
Like, no.
Yeah. It's, what I found with people that do things like that, and you probably have found this too, is that people tend to be attracted to, they say, oh, you marry your mother, you marry your father. And it's like, the reason is, that's the first example you had of love. And, you're filling in the blank. You're like, love is blank. When you're a baby, when you're a child, you just take everything as absolute. So if love is nurturing and kind and, healthy boundaries and all those things, then that's what you grow up kind of having. I see very few people who have actually healthy boundaries, but they do exist. I've run across them. But for the most part, if you have manipulation, control, anger, all kinds of abuse when you're a child with your parent, that tends to be it's what you attract, because vibrationally it's what you carry, but it's also it increases, it's your belief system of what love is. So it's really hard to block that. And the only way to do it is start releasing those emotions underneath and working on those traumas, because you've got these blind spots. And, how many people around you can see that you're in a bad relationship and you're like, well, that's just how they are. Or, well, you're making excuses. You have these blind spots until you start healing. And then you go, whoa, this is something you don't need.
Right. Or the ones, and they date the same man like 20 times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, so you bought white Nikes again?
Yeah.
You didn't like white Nikes 2 days ago, so you went and got a new pair of white Nikes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, how many pairs of those are you going to have, sis? But it's hard for people though. Especially if they have trouble facing it. People come in, I'm like, that's your dad. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, when you were 3 years old, something happened to you. What was it? They're like, oh yeah, I had this experience and he, push me down the stairs or whatever, it can be anything. And I'll say, okay, well, that imprinted on you so heavily that you are feeling like you need to be abused in order to be loved. And that's not true. Let's work on that, and when you go back to the root issue, the root cause of whatever it is, and you start unraveling that stuff, all the other stuff it's like letting go of balloons, it just all starts kind of floating away, but it's in layers. And that's another thing that I think people a lot of times don't understand. They're like, oh, I'm just going to get enlightened and then I'm good. I'm like, no. We're peeling an onion here, and it's in layers. This isn't something that's going to be overnight. Unfortunately, it'd be great, but that's why we're on this planet, is to work through things, and help our souls and get the t-shirt for being here. So, it takes time. And I think the patience is tough to have. And that's part of the reason I did the book too.
Well, that, and people want microwave fixes, which you go into some 5-minute release fixes, some 5-minute ways to address things in your book. Does that really help, or is that just opening the door a little?
Well, it depends on the person. I've seen it really be able to dig deep when people stick with it. It's having the awareness is the first step. You've got to have an awareness that something is off, having the recognition and being able to say, yeah, I think maybe I need to work on something here. Maybe I need to approach it differently because what I've been doing is not working. Right. So, whenever you go about, I tell people to call up that emotion, pretty much everybody has a go-to emotion, especially if you have a lot of trauma. It's either anxiety, depression, anger. It's one of those really heavy based emotions, right? Right. So, you have this go-to emotion. So every time you feel that, I have people, in the morning, I say, okay, work on that first, whatever you're feeling. Are you feeling anger? Are you feeling stress? And just say, I choose to release that emotion and whatever it's attached to. And you just envision that leaving your body. And you do that every day. You do it a couple times a day. If it comes up again, you do it. And then I do encourage people to dig deeper. I'm like, okay, if you start paying attention and having awareness, a lot of times maybe you'll get a flash of something. Maybe you'll get another feeling. You're like, I remember when I felt this before, when this and this and this happened. Okay, then dig into those events, dig into those imprints and emotions, and start working on those layers. And it's a practice for people, and in doing those short fixes in time, grounding yourself if you feel anxiety, that kind of thing, digging your roots into the ground, breathing up through your roots, that kind of thing. It really is, it's a fix in the moment for people to feel like they can have some control. And that's where the word control comes from in the title, is really helping people understand that they're not victims of their life.
Right.
That they can actually start shifting that.
Part.
It is.
We talked about the thyroid and it being affected a lot. What other organs get affected?
Liver and gallbladder are big ones. Those are very commonly affected with anger, both expressed and repressed anger, bitterness, rage, that kind of thing. There's a lot of people out there when they have alcohol issues, that kind of thing. A lot of times they have repressed anger. It's a lot of anger that gets brought up, or they get angry if they drink and that kind of thing. Gallbladder issues, same thing. It's very, very similar. Pancreas is more people that are very critical, bitter, vindictive, that strain of it's kind of like anger, but it's a little bit different. It's a little more calculated than the kind of anger you find like in the liver kind of thing. But your stomach can be affected with anxiety. There's a lot of anger held in the colon as well. There's just pretty much anything you can think of gets affected in some way.
Right. It all goes through the digestive system because it's right there in that middle of that solar plexus, root chakra, all that plays in. What's your thoughts on the widows? And it almost seems like it takes 8 to 9 months. They'll be widowed. This is a good long-term relationship. And all of a sudden they start having heart problems.
Yeah. So I think that's a few different things. I think one is fear moving forward into a relationship. They start having guilt. They start comparing that person to the other person. I think that's something that you would do all along, most likely, if you have that kind of, especially if it was a good relationship. I mean, I think those are the tougher ones for sure. But start having heart problems. You have this. When I look at heart chakra, that someone has lost someone very dear to them, the heart chakra is really damaged. I mean, there's a lot of damage that has occurred in there. Sometimes I look at it and it looks like somebody just, like there was a big ball of steel wool and somebody just kind of half ripped it out. And so the chakra is trying to spin around and all of that. So when that chakra gets really heavily activated, again, if it's not in good shape, then it's trying to process all of the emotions that are coming through the heart, but it can't because it's not healthy. So that really needs to be worked on and healed. And the old cords need to be taken out because the new cords that are connected to the new person are not the same. And so when you're trying to connect those heart chakras to each other, and you've got this old cord in there that's kind of like necrotic. It's like, kind of dead energy that's hanging there. It really is good to take it out and cleanse that and start really working on repairing the chakra itself before you get into a new relationship. Even if it's a healthy one, you can start really having problems. So
you can, and then I see it a lot, and I hear widows say a lot of times, "I'm just so heartsick. I'm just so heartbroken." I'm like, don't say that.
Right.
Because you're taking on that. And I'll guarantee within 9 months, they have heart failure. Something goes on with the heart. And I'm like, you programmed yourself for it.
You did. Yeah. And it's hard to understand that. It really is hard to understand that because societally, we feel like we need to partner up in order to be whole, which is totally not true. feeling whole on your own is tricky, you know, and when that other person crosses over, they are taking some of their energy with you. So it's really important to call that energy back to you, and be sure that you're disconnecting those cords, because you know, if part of you is on the other side, it makes it really hard to function here. It's just super, super, super tough. So it's important for them to call it back. But yeah, programming yourself for that is something people do all the time. Yeah.
Right. And that's something that you can do with your emotions, is pre-program them. You know, this is how I feel. This is what I'm experiencing. This is the experience I want.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, and one of the things that I find people don't understand too with emotions is, and with manifestation in general, is they say, you know, I'm going to say I'm rich, or I want to be rich, or I want, you know, I want love, or I want, you know, this, you know, one is, you know, saying you want it versus you have it. That's one thing. But another thing is, the universe, your energy system, you know, everybody's working together to get you there. So you may have to go through some stuff first that you really don't like. Things may get worse before they get better. And I think people sometimes throw up their hands and go, oh, that didn't work. And it's like, well, actually it is working, but it may take a while. You know, you're not meant to meet that person yet. Your astrology has to line up with your energy system, with the timing of the other person. You know, there's all these pieces when you're looking for a relationship, or the job that you want. You know, it just takes time sometimes, more than you want, but the universe has its own schedule. There's nothing you can do.
And it does. And then we have to also realize that, I don't know, we call them contracts, timelines, or whatever. I'm seeing a lot of people shooting it like they're not supposed to meet the person that they marry until they're mid-30s. Well, they hurry up and rush through everything and like, you ain't long-term, you ain't long-term, you ain't long-term, you ain't long-term. And they meet the person, and the person's not even ready for them.
Right. Right. And I have seen that happen as well. You know, you have to, it's a process. What I tell people with relationships, because they'll come to me, they're like, is he the one? I'm like, all I can tell you is you're going to learn a lot from this relationship. And, you know, even if I see, yes, they are, it's, you know, you may not be in alignment for a while. You know, you may fall apart, come back together, or you may never come back together. It just depends on contractually how it's set up. You know, you can't rush love, you know, can't hurry love, you know, just like Phil Collins.
Like you brought up, you know, wanting to be rich. I always tell my clients, don't tell you don't want to be rich. You want to be happy.
Right. Yes.
You know, driving a Beamer, living in a big mansion, looks pretty on the outside, but that Beamer's got a maintenance package that'll kill you. You ain't going to get comfortable because, you know, you're 7 foot and it's designed for a 5'2". And the mansion's nice, but the staff is a pain in the ass. Repairing the roof is terrible. So work on being happy.
That's right.
And vibrate yourself back to that. Because once you get too happy, you'll have what you need. Otherwise, you can't be happy.
Right.
And I loved The Secret, but I hated The Secret.
Right. Right.
You know, because yes, it did open the world up to the law of attraction and the law of vibration, but they like missed out all the other laws, like, you know, of coordinates and contracts and how to actually do it.
Right. Right. It was the PR version of that, you know, and it's just kind of like, it was the Instagram version of
very much. No, I think it was the Snapchat version because it was really short.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
You know, Instagram you can at least go live on. This was the Snapchat version.
Very truth. Very much truth. Yeah. It's like the quick, do this and everything will be fine. You know, A plus B equals C. No, sometimes A plus B equals a giraffe. You know, I mean, you don't know.
You know, and you gotta look at that. Now, what's your thoughts on someone trying to use the law of attraction while going through emotional trauma, while having to unpack those suitcases and peel back that onion? How well do you think that works? Like, are you doing too much?
You know, I think it's one of those things that if you just sit in your muck and you say, you know, I want this or I want that, and you're not working on those traumas and you're not working on yourself, what you're going to attract is whatever's in alignment with where you are at the moment. So if you've got a lot of traumas, if you've got a lot of things vibrationally that are very, very low, or that you're asking for a healthy relationship, there may be aspects of the relationship that are good, but for the most part, it's still going to be that yucky thing that you don't want. But the more you work on yourself, what I have found, even with myself, I went through a 20-year marriage that was extremely difficult, because, I hadn't done my work, but I was 18 years old when I got married the first time. So yeah, so but I started working on myself, after I had my awakening and had this understanding. And, the first couple of relationships were like, they were better, but they weren't great. But I thought, I'm improving. And I think that's what people need to understand too. As you work on yourself, you're going to start meeting better and better people, because you're going to be more in alignment with your true self, where the traumas aren't going to be affecting you as much if you're working on those and clearing those out. Whatever kind of therapy or energy work or whatever you want to do, it's a progressive thing. So, I feel like using the law of attraction, when you have a lot of traumatic stuff, it can be disruptive, definitely. But if you view it as a process and you continue to actually do your work, then I think it can be a really healthy thing, because you can start to see a progression of things getting better for you. So it's definitely a process, but it just has to be framed in the right way in your mind in order to really benefit from it.
Very much so. And it has to be understood that you don't want to be attracting what you're trying to throw out.
Right.
And I think that's why I was like, do you want or the other?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is your first book.
Right.
We've already talked about your other two. What else are you doing?
Well, I am doing a physical products line right now, geared more toward like 16 to 26-year-olds. That's a boho brand. I'm starting with essential oil rollers. That's going to be coming out in the next probably month to 6 weeks, somewhere in there. We're going to start doing that. I channel all the blends from my guides, and that's going to be really fun. And then I'm doing a membership, and that's going to be out in the next probably month to 2 months. And then I'm going to start doing courses that correspond with the book. So those are all the big things. And then hopefully next year I'll be starting a podcast, probably early next year.
It's easy. I love our podcast here, and I love talking with guests and stuff. Where's your line on the cord thing?
On the cord? You said?
On getting cords cut and having them cut, and
I definitely have an opinion on that.
What is it?
Yeah, so cords, it's kind of like you can know enough to be dangerous on those things. What I have found with cords is that you have to know what you're doing. I mean, if you just go whacking away at cords, it can actually be traumatic. It can actually cause more damage than good. When I work with people in cords, I actually take if we're removing cords, I don't just go cut it, because then you've got this, like dead energy hanging out of you that can be reconnected to other things. You don't want that cord. If it's not healthy, you need to take it out completely. So what I do is take it out by the root, cleanse where it connected. I'm like, there's a reason this unhealthy cord connected to you. We need to understand the trauma underneath it, the energy underneath it, take the cord out, clean the area, because it's not healthy there. It's infected. There's something off. We have to take the structure out that the cord connected to begin with, and heal that space. And cords can be transmuted. I've seen cords between like mothers and daughters that are left over from other lifetimes. So like, the mother will say, oh, the daughter's always trying to tell me what to do. I'm like, well, she was your mother, so that makes sense, and they start laughing, and I'll say, okay, well, we need to work on transmuting that cord. And sometimes they need to be disconnected completely and start over. But you have old soul contracts and you have soul memory, and sometimes those cords from other lifetimes are still present. So you have to either change the energy that's going through them or remove them and start over. So, I mean, that's just a few thoughts I have on cords, but just going around and cutting cords for the sake of cutting cords, I think is just it's not the best practice for sure.
Right. And my own thing about it, and my thing is for this for a long time has been, it's not like getting your hair cut. You don't go and get it done every 2 weeks. And there's not a cord to the woman that cut you off in line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they could throw darts at you, I mean,
Yeah.
you throw darts at them, and energetically you need to be conscious of that. And I do find, most people aren't conscious of how they throw their energy around. It's just,
Right.
They just don't know. And so, when someone comes in, they're like, oh, I feel like this person's like attacking me. I'm like, yeah, you got a big hook in your back. Let's take that out. Let's heal you up and put a little Teflon back there. I mean,
Right.
it's interesting when people start being conscious of those things. And then I get these weird texts, from people. I think someone threw a dart at me today. I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
That's interesting.
yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So it's fascinating how all that stuff works and things we're just not even aware of most of us.
I had one client come to me and she was going literally every 2 weeks, dropping $1,000 to have cords cut. And I am like, what are you doing?
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. For one, you can do it yourself. I love to teach people how to do things themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, well, it's not when, I always tell people being a healer is a misnomer because I'm not healing you. If you come to me, I'm not the one healing you, you're healing you. So all I am is a conduit for the energy. It's like this little energy vitamin that comes in and starts working internally in you to have that healing take place. You're doing the work. So, the idea that you would go to somebody every 2 weeks to have cords cut that's insane to me, especially for that much money. I mean, that's just crazy because I would be like, okay, this is what cords look like. This is how they feel. Close your eyes. Let's see if we can get some visual or you can feel them. Okay. Do you feel that? Okay. this is how you take the cord out. This is how you clean. This is how you cut that out of you and teach them how to do that. And if they're uncomfortable, I get it. I mean, it's kind of a strange concept to be working with energy, but I do my best to kind of teach people at least how to do some self-maintenance versus me just being, because honestly, I don't have time to help every single person in a one-on-one.
And I get that because, my schedule's bleeding ink and I'm like, no, this isn't how this works.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't deal with it. I've not dealt with cord cutting and all that just for that reason. It's like not my game. I like being their GPS. And yes, I have healing, and I can tell you what roadside assistance is. And I go home and throw salt in his bathwater because I'm tired of his attitude type things.
Yeah,
but not my game. The healer can go do the healing thing. I'll stay over here and be the psychic GPS that says, no, you don't want that road.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I do like doing readings for people. That's a lot of fun. I like doing the healing work too. It's tricky for me to just do readings because I'll see I'm a little too OCD for that. I'm like, ask my guides, I'm like, can I do, sometimes they're like, no, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Okay. I won't touch it. Because you always have to be respectful of, sometimes people just aren't ready to go through something. They're not ready to let something go. They're not ready to be healed. They need to have other experiences. And I think that's really tough for people to understand as well, because, we all just want to feel better fast. And that's what, my book's premise is, like, you can feel better fast. And that's totally true. I've used these techniques for years with people.
And they work well. They really do work well. And it really helps in your book for people to understand their energy and their bandwidth, and that all right, let's see which tab is open playing music, turn that one off. Let's get ourselves back to one and then figure out why we are on this massive search in general for spoons.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just coming back to it and understanding the root of why you're acting the way you are, why you're in the relationships you are, and really facing that and understanding the correlation. I think a lot of people just don't put the two things together,
Right.
So, they think, well, that's just how my life is. It's like, it doesn't have to be,
Right.
you can make some shifts and you can change. And as you do that, you're going to start seeing more options for yourself.
Right.
When you're in a super tough relationship and you feel very trapped, if you don't work on yourself and you don't you don't start digging in and really either going to a therapist or doing energy work or something like that and really working, you're not ever going to see any other options.
Right.
You're not going to ever think that you have enough confidence or wherewithal to do anything different, but you will start opening your eyes when you start doing that work. So that's the amazing
Right.
thing.
And when you've dug yourself into a pit, all you see is the pit.
Right. Exactly. It's like, you just got that shovel, you just keep on digging. It's like, wow, I can't see the light as well as I used to. Well, yeah, you keep digging the pit, start digging stuff on the sides and step on the dirt, so you can get out.
Right. And be able to get a better view. And I think that's where readers come in, is where like, you're in a pit. You need to move that over here, and maybe that big rock there you can hop up on. And healers are like, here's your shovel. And I love healers that are like, here's your shovel. I'm not going to levitate you out of there with a rope. Here's your shovel. This is the tools you use. You dug that pit. Now you got to fill that pit back in, or an elephant's going to fall in it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And that's how I kind of talk to people. It's like, you can do this, and sometimes it's a tough love conversation. And sometimes it's really just the confidence building conversation. Cause I've had a lot of women come to me that say, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I'm really scared. I'm stressed. I don't know. I have these kids, what am I going to do? And I'm like, there is a way to get out of this. You can do this. Start here and just give them small steps. And that's what the book's about too, is just take a small step, feel the difference, and then take another small step. And as you're doing that, eventually you're going to be on level ground and you can run, you're not going to be in the pit anymore. It's just going to happen one day. And so it's huge.
Those are hard steps. The first steps are always the hardest. The small steps are always the hardest, especially when it's changing your identity. Because I don't care what relationship it is, or even job, because well, I'm Mr. John's wife.
Yep.
I'm the accountant for Chase.
Yeah.
Those are identifying things we get locked into, and then we become that. And then what?
Yeah, exactly. It's the I am this, and when your identity is wrapped up in your job or your relationship or, your illness, whatever it is, it like I said, it makes it really hard to unwind that. So learning that you are a person, you are a being, an entity without anything, and sometimes you really have to have most of your life stripped away to realize who you are. I had that happen to me when I had my awakening. I was raised Southern Baptist. And so, I had very much of that upbringing in me. Not that my family was overly that way, but I was raised in the church. My mother worked at the church. My sister worked for my dad, all my friends were there, all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, that's what I knew. And even though I'd kind of abandoned that whole thing, those underlying
are still there.
Huge. And I didn't realize it until I started going through this awakening experience, and I was being deconstructed on a daily basis for all those beliefs. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not right. That's not true for me. For some people it's their truth, and that's totally great. If it works for you. But for me, I was starting to have experiences that were contradicting what I had been taught. And so I'm like, this is experiential. If this isn't true for, it must be true for me because it's happening to me or for me more so than what I had been taught. And so it was really, it's like, who are you without that? It was this identity, really existential crisis kind of in the middle of all that. It's like, who are you without those other pieces that you thought were who you were, and coming back to the core of yourself it's tricky and it's tough, but you can do it.
And I don't know. I came out, my father was Pentecostal. I came out of the Pentecostal church with this kind of double lingo in my head all the time. And looking back, I wanted to know if this was the same for you. You find yourself when you need those core principles like the dedication or, that type of thing, going back and looking at that and going, this was useful. This was useful.
That's a really good question. I think for where I was in my life at the time, it was useful. There are some things I look at and go, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, now that I'm on the other side of it. But some things I think were useful. The thought that there was always someone there for you. Angels were there for you. God was there for you. Jesus, Jesus is one of my main guides. He's kind of,
Right.
I say BFF, he's there all the time. If there's a love thing, here he comes. I'm like, oh gosh, now what? What do we got to deal with now? Kind of thing. So I think that initial premise was very helpful. One of the ways it was very helpful is for my understanding of how the Christian mindset works, because I get a lot of clients that are of that mindset still, and it's worked for them, or maybe it's not working for them now and it has worked for them in the past, or that's how they live and they're comfortable with that and they want something that fits inside that circle. And I can speak to that dynamic because I do understand it. And I understand that every single person has their truth. And when I get people that say, oh, well, how do you know that's true? Or how do you, I said, well, if you lined up 100 Baptists or 100 Catholics or 100 whoever, and you said the same verse to them, not all of them no one's going to have the same perspective and get the same thing out of it. It's because everybody has their own life experience and truth within that particular paradigm. So I feel like it's been helpful for me for the understanding of my clients, and also just for the base kind of knowledge is helpful to have going forward,
Right. For me, I find a lot of the dedication is helpful for me. Looking back over the years and going, yeah, I kind of didn't listen to Spirit and then bumped into this, and it was like, okay, well, this is cute. Yeah, this is a nice side time job. You need to do this full time. No, I'm on a nursing floor. I'll be fine. I'll do readings on the weekends, that type of thing. You're only getting me half the time. And it's like, yeah. Don't you remember that, sermon? And my God does this to me all the time. Don't you remember that sermon your father done on follow your heart and follow your faith and listen to what Spirit's telling you? And I'm like, just shut up.
Yes, I know. I get that too. I'll be like, oh, this. It'll be like, remember this? I'm like, oh, it's just kind of, because and I find myself all the time when I'm talking to clients or, say so, something will come out of my mouth and I'm like, oh, that was for me too. Oh, okay, there it is, And they always laugh and I'm like, no, I need to hear that today, I guess, and so did they. So it's really, my guides will do that. They'll show me things, or that, I think it's funny about guides and angels. Like, people think that they're this all-knowing being. They're all-knowing beings that don't have a personality. And they so do. I mean, they have the biggest sense of humor, and they are wise asses, and they will
and smart asses.
Oh, yes.
And gossip.
Yes.
Gossip. And it's like, no, I don't need to hear that. Thank you very much. I don't want to know that such and such on aisle 5 is having an affair with the guy on aisle 3.
That's right.
Go down to aisle 4 and just watch this thing occur. It's like,
I know.
Stop.
I know. I'm like, I did not want to. The thing they always do to me, I'd be at the grocery store and they're like, tell them not to eat that cereal. They're allergic to it. I'm like, I'm not going to go over and I have this argument in my head that it's like, I'm like, I do not want to know that right now. I do not care. I am just trying to get my groceries and go home, and it's interesting how that kind of stuff works. And it's like, people like, why don't you like to be around a lot of people? I'm like, oh, no, I'm around a lot of people all the time. I don't need.
I have 6 people around me at all times. I don't need any additional people sometimes. Sometimes I need even my 6 to go away.
Exactly. And, then you have the people's people and the,
Yeah.
and the people's, angels and guides of all levels and demons and whatever, and it's
And
like,
the free renters.
yeah.
The ones that have lived here, maybe not consciously, there's still energy and predator, and it's like, can we teach them to do dishes instead of walk up and down the hall? Like, can we give her a broom?
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, why are you here? Why? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Those people, I mean, I have them in my I was laying there in bed the other night and I had this really weird dream and I was like, oh, somebody's screwing with my sleep,
Mhm.
And I'm laying there and all of a sudden this guy sticks his head through my wall, like right beside me. And I'm like, I said, you need to leave. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like that. And he took off and I'm like, why were you messing with me? Like, it's like that kind of stuff happens all the time. And you're just,
Right.
you surround your house, people say, oh, if you ask for protection and if this and that,
Baloney.
fine. And
You
I'm
don't
like,
care. I've got
no.
my house. I literally have a ring of salt around it, brick dust around it, railroad spikes on all 4 corners. They don't care. Tracing through the neighborhood, popping in, going, ooh, what's the new curtains? It's like, leave.
Get out of my house. And most of them are just passing through. I do tell people that. I'm like, most of them are just passing through. Most of them are just kind of walking around. It's like, they're oblivious. Very few of them actually will try to cause harm to you, or they don't even realize what they're doing. And most commonly,
most of them are just nosy and don't and think that we don't see them.
Right.
And it's like, okay, did you not see what we have been told is the big glowing light on the other side walking around in this space? No, I am not, in the mood.
I know. I remember watching certain TV shows would open up my vortexes. The closer they were to actual truth, like Ghost Whisperer was one that I would have to always close the vortexes after that show. And sometimes I forget. And I remember I think I went in the bathroom after I watched one of the shows and all of a sudden it's like, bam, 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 bam. This woman's knocking on the door and she's like, you need to tell my daughter that boy is not good for her. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm in the bathroom and you need to leave. I was like, get out of my house. Like, I don't know who you are. You know what? That is her journey. And so you need to just stop being nosy. Like, get out of my house.
Go on to the other side, take care of the grandkids till they get here and let her figure out which one's going to father them.
Exactly.
Yeah. That happens. And I'm glad that you talked to, and that you're one that, I don't know. I think there are like 3 different divisions of guides. There's the guides we have that are like us and they mitigate with us and they go through life with us and they have this full freaking conversation with us.
Yeah.
Especially like when we're doing something, it's like, I don't want to know. I don't care that she's pregnant. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's what I call the mid-levelers. And these are the ones that are kind of that way, but they're teacher guides. Like they're the trainers to our guides.
Right.
And then there's these people that paint guides as these people that walk around in white robes all the time and are all knowing, all seeing. I'm like, what the hell? What did we do? Get the unionized version? And David just looks at me and goes, that isn't that way. It just isn't that way.
No.
Yeah.
There's
angels aren't that way either. They don't walk around with wings and glowy. I find it more connected. The angels I've ran into more look like the movie Michael.
Yeah, it's just like there are so many different levels of guides, and depending on what you're going through, I've had dating guides, I've had guides that have taught me how to cook different ways, taught me different types of energy work, and then the ascended masters, and then you've got, there's just all these different levels and different beings from different places. It's just so much of that stuff that sometimes I come into contact with something like, what is this? And I'll ask one of my other guides, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? Like, what is he talking about?
Here? Yeah.
I'm like, what do I need to learn? Okay. Am I on a different track now? Like, what are we doing? You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'll feel really disconnected for a couple of days and really just kind of disheveled. I'll tell my husband, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. You know, I just feel really off. And I'll go to talk to one of my guides and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not your guide anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh no, you're getting a new set. Yeah, they're coming tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay. You know,
Well,
and
that's
so,
nice. Yeah,
yeah,
I've done stop that behavior. Like he's been around long enough, he can just stay, and the rest of them can go away.
yeah, yeah. It's nice to have one that just hangs
Yeah,
out. Jesus hangs out with me all the time. You know,
yeah.
he comes and goes, but I mean, he's there most of the time. But I have other guides that come and go.
Come and go,
Just
and just depending on what you're studying or what you're doing or who you're working with.
right.
And I get that, and I have that too. But David, it's like, I don't care. You can't get reassigned until I get over there. So you can either hurry up and get me out of here, or whatever.
Yeah, you're in it for the long haul, buddy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting how that is because they just, you know, when you have one that works with you so well, you know, it's just it's
They're
so
like
nice.
trusted assistants.
Yeah, totally,
You
totally.
know,
Yeah.
like just go get the file number 27. We need to go see what she's dating this time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's going on over there? You know? I know. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, you don't need to know. I'm like, oh, come on. Nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Nope, none of your business. Just tell her to burn his shit, and we can move on with this.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't
What's
wanna
this
do it.
podcast going to be about?
You know, I was going to do like a solo podcast. I was going to say it's just called the Feel Better Podcast, which is just kind of general. You know, it can be anything. I want to be able to have a lot of latitude to talk about all the different levels of things that I'm interested in, you know, all kinds of energy stuff, different entities and energies. I'm really fascinated by entities just because I've dealt with them so much and helping people understand them and not be afraid of them. You know, that's a big one that I think a lot of people need. And then just explaining how chakras work and all the different levels. I've been given some really interesting diagrams of chakras on a very, very intricate level, like and how they charge themselves and all this stuff. It's really cool.
Move naturally and don't need to be closed and opened, and they're not garage doors.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's they can function normally. I mean, sometimes, you know, if you're meant to have a certain experience, then, you know, like I was, I mean, obviously it's like, okay, we're gonna turn the fire hose on now. But, you know, I mean, I had experiences when I was younger with different energies and things. But you know, different prophetic dreams mainly that were traumatic. I mean, they were honestly traumatic. I mean, I don't want to know if a plane's going to crash when I'm 7 years old. That's not something I want to know, you know?
No, that's not.
Yeah, it's like, how does that help?
Or melting faces. I don't want to see that either. We've
I know.
already clarified the rules on that one. I don't understand, and I can't get a straight answer from mine. Why is it that we come in and we get crap? Like, who shows a 7-year-old a plane crash? Like, on what? Was that a good idea? Like, we need safety measures put into place on the other side of this. No. The soul needs to be at least able to understand this information before providing this information.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice if they would do that. I mean, what I hear immediately is like, it's what your soul needed. I'm like, why did I need that? Like that's
What's the basis? What do they need? No, 7-year-olds need to be able to see rainbows, unicorns, maybe a demon or two that's a minor demon, so they can begin working and understanding that whole tryptonetic language there that needs to be readjusted.
Yeah.
That type of thing. They don't need to be seeing plane crashes and skin falling off of people and black holes in them.
Yeah. It wasn't my favorite dream for sure. But the one that was more dramatic was actually my, when I was 12 or 13, and I dreamed about the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 that happened in California. And I saw the bridge collapse. It started out with, you know, the music at the stadium, like it was the World Series, you know, and the A's were playing. And I had that dream. 2 weeks later, I was home by myself when the earthquake hit. And I guess it was the first I think it was the first earthquake that was like telecast. They were, you know, because it was right at the beginning of the World Series when it happened, one of the games. I think it was game 5. And it was happening, and then all of the visions that I had been seeing in my dream I was seeing them on the screen, and
Right.
I lost it. My mom said, she came home, she goes, "You were white as a sheet. You were babbling incoherently." I was like, "They're dead. They have people are trapped here and there." And then they would say, "Oh, we just found some people here," you know, and it was so traumatic to me. I thought, all these people are dead because of me. They're trapped because of me. They're never going to see their families again. It's all my fault. I didn't warn anybody. You know, you're 12 years old. You don't know. And I asked God, I said, "Please take this away. I have no use for this. This is so scary and so awful. And this is a curse." And, you know, I mean, I went to church and I told people what had happened, and they just went, "Well, you're a false prophet. You're going to hell." I'm like, "I'm 12. What?" You know?
Yeah.
And so it was really awful. And then, so it turned off for a long time, you know? And
Right.
then
That happens. It's like, okay, we have to go back a little bit since we're talking old age here. I remember being in Yahoo chat rooms, and psychic, you know, it used to be like Astro 5, Astro 8. It was where the psychics and the mediums and all that hang out. And like for 4 or 5 weeks, nobody was sleeping. I mean, it was like everybody was up. Everyone didn't know what was wrong. Nobody was having good dreams. Nobody was having even good readings. And this was during, you know, this is 2011, August, July, and it just became the running joke of, I don't know what's wrong with the orb, but the orb is going off. And that's when September 11th happened. And you will not believe the amount of readers, professional readers and non-professional everyday readers, that just left the business because of that. Like, they could not deal with that trauma of feeling that and not knowing anything to do with it. And I think a survival guide needs to be written for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that dealing with that kind of thing, you know, there's a lot of stuff that you deal with when you have these gifts that are hard. I mean, it really is hard, and it doesn't go away. It's a daily thing. I mean, you manage, you know, after a while you're like, okay, well, yeah, saw that was going to happen, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
But people will tell me when they're going to pass away, you know, that are in a coma, you know, that kind of thing. I recently had that happen. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really want to know that.
Right.
You know, because then the family's asking me, "Well, what do you get?" You know, and my guy's like, "Do not tell them." I'm like, "Oh, you know, why do you tell me these things?" You know, but you have to respect the process of the people that you're dealing with, because it's a sacred space, boys. But it's hard, and I think a survival guide needs to be written for that stuff, because it can really weigh on you if you can't detach yourself and remain objective and understand that, okay, it's for the greater perspective and good, and it's a soul journey and path. It doesn't have anything to do really with the human journey and path. I mean, it does, but it doesn't, you know. And
that's something that I've been accused on the show with some of our, not our normal listeners. You guys are lovely, but some of the people come in, "You're so uncaring." No, I'm not uncaring. I just cannot get into your muckery.
Yeah.
You know?
You can't get in, because whenever you get emotionally invested, you pick up all that crap, and then you're carrying it around and you're having to deal with it. And then if you work with the next person, it's like not washing your hands, you know, between surgeries. It's like, you know.
Not only that, but if you get emotionally invested into a client and their life and their situation and all that, you get the same amount of blinders. You can't get a depth view. It's like Google getting, you know, being the camera on your car and seeing all the potholes and going, "Oh no, we need to turn left here."
Yeah.
And, you know, running you into the lake because they saw the potholes. They weren't looking ahead and seeing that there was road construction and this road wasn't even built yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't. It's not that you're uncaring. It's just you can't get caught up in you can't be emotionally invested. And, you know, that's with any kind of like healing profession. I feel like, you know, I mean, your doctor, you know, can't be emotionally invested. If they are, guess what? They're going to screw up your surgery. You know, they can't be emotionally invested. There has to be a level of objectivity and detachment there in order for you to be healthy. And in for that other person to get the utmost care that you can give them. You know, it's your job to not be emotionally invested. And that's a tricky thing, I think, when healers are starting out, is that they get caught up in that, or they feel so much for the person. And one of the things in I am Barbara Ann Burton's teachings is she said, you always have to hand back over. When you're in someone's energy system and you're working with them, you always have to hand it back over. If you find yourself thinking about them throughout the day and you're like kind of obsessing about that person, or if they keep coming to you like energetically, you feel that you forgot to hand that back. And so every now and then that'll happen. If I do a session, you know, I'll forget, I'll get sidetracked afterwards, and I'll go, keep thinking about, oh yeah, I didn't hand it back over. And so I'll just push their energy back over, you know, and then it's fine. But yeah, it's tricky.
Right. And what I find really good with that is there's a claimy practice of washing in heavy salt water. So you take a metal pan, put salt in it, about an inch worth, and then filling it with water, then washing your hands. That really breaks that energy connection.
Yeah.
So that you're able to move on and not really transfer it onto someone else.
Right. Exactly. And that's a really good, I have done that before. It's, you know, I haven't done in-person one-on-ones for a little while, but I will do the energetic washing of my hands. And, you know, I take salt baths on a regular basis just because it's, you know, it's good practice. But yeah, that's a good one.
If you use body soap, it's a fourth of a cup of whatever salt you like. I use table salt. Salt's salt to me. Into a bottle of body wash. That way you're taking a salt bath every time you're taking a shower.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. It saves and cuts time. Well, honey, thank you for coming on. Now, you offer readings, you offer services. So, and I've put your web address out into the chat box, but go ahead and read it out for our listeners, so that for our podcasters that are listening, where they can get all this.
So just my website. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm not. Okay. So my website is amandahainline.com. And you can also follow me at AK Hainline on Instagram. And then I have a group on Facebook that's Daily Energy with Amanda Hainline. So you can find information on my website. And yeah, I have some cool upcoming stuff. So
you do. You have the podcast launching. You have the book out. Guys, go get this book. It is an evening read, but get your post-it notes ready, guys, because you're going to have to go back there and, you know, pull those tools back out and all. So go get that. It's on Amazon. It's all over the place. It's directly on our website. She's got a lot of blog information here that you can dig into too.
Yeah.
You know, so go ahead and get into that. You know, look at, you know, Better 101, you know, Feel Better 101, secrets, the secret behind her new book. And, you know, you definitely, Amanda, come back. Because you know, when the podcast launches, when all that launches, definitely come back. You've got our email. We'd love to have you back on the show, darling.
Yeah, that would be awesome. This has been so much fun. Thanks so much.
Yeah. You're welcome, darling. Have a great evening.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye. All right, so let's pop up Joe here. Hello, darlings. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
Doing really well. Nice to sit down and vibe and really dig into some stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, so yeah, I've been doing site updates. I felt so bad when you were saying, go check out our website. And I'm like, no, not ours. Not right now. No.
Right.
Oh, sometimes it's just
ours takes some site updates. Ours, you know, takes some work. We've got multiple irons in the fire.
We do. Yeah, there've been a couple of things, and I didn't realize I was quite this far behind on this one thing. Like I had done it, but I hadn't finished doing it. And I didn't realize how far out it was. And so I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, I started with a couple of sites and I went, oh, okay, well, I can understand that. I'd missed that one. And then I'm just sitting here going, oh, wow, I thought I got this taken care of.
No,
it was on a list. But yeah, so no, it's fine. It'll get better. It gets better.
Right.
But yeah, it was
Yeah.
just it was a moment.
Yeah.
I'm just
Well,
like,
you
oh.
were horrifying me with an article.
Oh, I horrified you with an article?
Yes. And I thought we'd talk about it tonight.
Oh, okay.
The 50 gross foods only baby boomers still think are cool.
Oh. Yes, that article horrified me. I was like, all I could do with you at that point was just look at you and be like, we're old. That's
Yeah,
what this article just told me is we're old.
apparently.
But yeah, so the 50 gross foods only baby boomers still think are cool. And now this is from a thisversusthat.org article.
Yes.
But yeah, no. Like it's a crazy, crazy list of things, and I'm like, I felt personally attacked.
I personally attacked it. I was like, stop looking at my menu planner.
Exactly. Like these are like things like there's a few on the list. I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that one.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, no, that can die. But then the rest of them, it's like that's just wrong.
Yeah, so let's run through some of these and see what our listeners thinks. Ambrosia.
Ambrosia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like that one, I'm just kind of like, I understand it. It's one of those things you can do too much of.
Good for a holiday party, though. Bran
Yeah.
cereal, I'm going to say this. I don't mind it dying. It can go die.
See, this is like, that's where I have a problem. Now, like, if you're talking like Raisin Bran, that is the closest I get to like a breakfast cereal.
Right.
Like, I am literally a little old man disguised. Like, I'm a constipated little old man disguised.
No. Your full comment there should be
Mhm.
your little old accountant disguised as a young accountant.
Oh, well, and not spicy accounting either.
No,
But yeah. So then Vienna sausage, and I expected our dog to just drop dead immediately.
exactly.
Like she's like, this is the only reason I like you.
Hmm.
Like this is the only part of your personality that I like.
Hmm. Sardines. And I'm like,
Sardines.
no, sardines didn't stick around. I need A1 sauce.
True.
Yeah,
True. But now canned sardines.
they can go away, especially if they're in mustard. That's just nasty.
Oh,
Tuna casserole. What the hell am I
yeah,
going to have
that's
on Thursday?
mhm. Like I don't know, like really seriously, tuna casserole. Like I get. I think it's just now the like. I think it was partly the like all the parents who like lived on the casserole method.
Right.
Just every night is a casserole. Like that's all you're eating. Like we're poor. Like you're just getting one casserole after another because I've got to make like, a pound of meat, feed 20.
Right. Artificial
Because
sweeteners. I am glad that this one is leaving. I will throw a party when Sweet and Low goes out of business. That stuff is nasty and hazardous.
yeah. Um and we have better things. Like I mean seriously stevia, like if you're going to have to use something that isn't a direct, sugar,
Mm-hmm.
like stevia is reasonable.
No, I'll take my
Yeah,
sugar in the raw, thank you.
yeah, that too. That's a lovely choice.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and then the one that I thought you were going to have a heart attack on, which frankly, the fact you eat them probably will cause you to have a heart attack.
No, I'm
Bologna
not.
sandwiches.
Yeah, bologna
Mhm.
sandwiches.
Bologna sandwich. Kill the bologna. That's where they're at. And spam.
What is going to happen to the Hawaiian cooking culture?
You know, it is a very, yeah.
Now,
I,
this next one, I don't think it can die. Like, literally, they have
no,
found them over 100 years and they're still fresh. So, Twinkies?
yeah. Like, if you could inject Twinkie DNA into humans, you
Hmm.
have the fountain of youth.
Right.
Like, that's what we should be investing money in.
Brussels
Like,
sprouts?
figure it out. Yeah. Brussels sprouts was the weird one for me on the list. I was like, come on. Like, the avocado toast loving generation is anti Brussels sprout? Like, what? Like,
Right.
y'all aren't making them right. That's all I know.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah.
Cream corn.
Cream corn is a direct side I can understand. Like, yeah, that needs to die.
That needs to be an ingredient.
It's an ingredient. It makes lovely corn pudding.
Right.
Like,
Liver.
yeah, actually,
no,
now this is
delicious.
the one that you have to dig into.
Okay.
And more so it's about like just the horrible ways that people cook.
Right.
And that they literally take the raw liver, they heat it up till it is cooked through and serve it. No seasoning, no spices, no effort, no. Yeah.
That is not how you cook liver. First of all, you've got to go and get fresh livers. Then you take and you batter them, preferably in a good southern flour. You don't want a northern flour, it doesn't have enough gluten or salt in it. Slap it through some milk, preferably buttermilk. Slap it back through some flour, and then throw it in a very hot cast iron skillet with some lovely onions. With a side of A1, it is delicious.
Yeah, you've made A1 a side now.
It is.
Well, because you used to cook it with, and I went, no.
Yeah.
Like, too much. Like, I'm very specific in how I like mine.
Yeah.
Fruitcake. Like, I know, like, it's a love it or hate it. Like, you either love fruitcake or you hate fruitcake, and I get that part. I personally love fruitcake. I'm a little weird in that regard. Chicken pot pie? I think that's probably
frozen version is a mess.
Yeah, but I can also understand that some people this is like a religious go-to. Like this is how you clean out the fridge of the leftover chicken, the leftover vegetables, the leftover after another.
Right, but those little banquet pot pies are nasty.
They have been.
Yeah.
I think banquet, of course, I don't think has gotten any better. But other companies have done better ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Ashley's like save the pot pies.
Yes. Egg salad. What are you supposed to do when you have too many eggs?
Like, yeah, I'm like, no, egg salad is a wonderful thing. Though I will say that like deviled egg salad
is delicious.
Yes.
Processed cheese.
Yeah, technically we probably shouldn't be eating that one.
Well, I'm sorry. Processed cheese is just a staple. There's no way you can make a good grilled cheese without it. SpaghettiOs. This one can die. Like, this one can die on its own.
Yeah, yeah. I remember liking them as a kid.
Right.
And then somewhere in adulthood, they suddenly, like, I don't know, just the smell when you open the can hits me like dog food.
Yeah.
It's just, no, that's not human consumption able.
Right.
Ice milk.
See, yeah, I don't get this one. This has got to be a northern thing. I don't know what the hell ice milk is.
Okay, basically take all the joyful wonder of ice cream and just suck that right out and throw it in the garbage.
Okay.
And effectively imagine making ice cream with skim milk.
Ew. Yeah, that one can leave.
Yeah. Ice milk was, yeah, it's a very weird, it always tastes freezer burn.
Okay.
Like that's where it's at. Cream of wheat, that one's, yeah.
It's porridge, people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a staple of the human diet. You can take this next one.
Grits.
I don't eat things that go in the middle of towel.
No, that's grout, but yes, pretty much the same consistency. I quit eating grits while I was in the South. Like, I got introduced to them and I went, okay, I can technically consume this. But then I found out that the things that I have to do to grits to be able to consume them is technically considered an insult to Southern cooks, whoever made them. Like, the cook who made this is now insulted. You insulted their grits. I did not know that is almost a capital punishment offense in the South.
Yes, it is. Prunes.
Like, prunes, yeah. I don't know. I never liked
I'm
them.
not a prune eater. Someone else can have them.
Lima beans, I'm all for that being on this list. Like, please, please.
The way they are here, yeah. I mean, those green beans, they're half fucking cooked.
Well, there's that. And then personal attack again. Oatmeal raisin cookies? Like, come on, guys. Granted, I like an oatmeal raisin cookie more than I like a chocolate chip cookie.
I know. You get really disappointed when you think I've made oatmeal raisin and it turns out to be a chocolate chip. Of course, I've also been mean to you.
What?
The chocolate chip oatmeal raisin cookies.
Okay, now that was a good thing. That was a good thing. Those were good.
Yes.
It was very confusing, but they were good. Fish sticks.
This one can leave too. Out the door.
Yeah, I think we've pushed that one. Again, personal attack, tapioca pudding. I know so many people do not like the snotty pudding. But I'm all about it.
Well, I think it can be used well. Now, I want to know what the heck they're going to be doing with their beans, because if they're throwing away cornbread, what are you going to put in your potato soup? What are you going to put in your butter beans?
Hold on.
Put in your pinto beans?
Go back to tapioca pudding for a second.
Uh-huh.
Can we point out we're killing tapioca pudding?
Mm-hmm.
But boba tea is a thing.
Yeah.
I just want to point out it's the same stuff, just bigger.
Right.
Okay, just want to clarify that for everyone out there, like, death to the tapioca pudding, but on the boba tea.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that boba tea either.
Yeah, and then cornbread. Like, come on.
I don't know what they're going to use it for. I mean, cornbread in itself has to go into stuff.
Oh, yeah.
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 Limburger cheese, which this was surprising for me. This is a cheese I like.
With it's not one of my favorites. I'm not a big fan of the footy cheese.
It's wonderful with liverwurst and a little bit of mustard on some nice rye. It's a delicious sandwich.
Ooh, see, no, not, no.
Next one out of the bat. Apparently, people don't like shepherd's pie anymore.
No, and I think it's back to the same reason as the chicken pot pie. Because, again, a lot of people use it for leftovers.
Right.
Like, we're going to just clean out the fridge, low-effort meal. I'm going to dump some crap in the fridge together, pop it in the oven. It's a leftover killer.
Well, see, this is the thing. I think it's because ground beef has become so expensive. That's why it's falling out of fashion. Who has a pound of ground beef left over anymore?
Well, true. Well, but that can be like the one ingredient you actually add.
Right.
But yeah. And then as a whole food chain, Cracker Barrel. Just like that's on the kill list, is Cracker Barrel.
If they don't improve their services, that could be a possibility.
Well, at least the consistency. Right. I will say consistency.
Yeah.
Like, Cracker Barrel used to be a very consistent restaurant. You could walk into every single one of them, and within probably a good 95 percentile, you know exactly what the food's going to taste like. You know exactly what the service is going to be like. You know exactly the experience you're going to have.
Right.
But then somewhere in the last couple of decades, it's been slowly like that. That's more like a 75 percentile.
Right.
Of like, yeah, a lot of your restaurants aren't quite as they used to be.
Right. And Kathy, I will agree with you. Bob Evans can go on out the door. They need to be replaced with the old-fashioned diner in a heartbeat.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I think as a culture, we're kind of getting done with chain restaurants to a degree.
To a very large degree. Rice pudding.
Yes.
This is another household staple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rice pudding is one that I dearly love. I like it's a quick and easy thing.
Right.
It doesn't take a whole lot. There's not a lot to it. But it is one of those like it's nice. Condensed soup I found to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Like can I point out there was an entire summer in which I carefully budgeted because I was poor and like literally Campbell's soup kept me alive because that was literally what I ate every single night for dinner was a can of soup and a sandwich.
Right.
Just night after night after night after night.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, even then, there was enough variety that wouldn't like it literally took the entire summer before it got to the point of okay, I've had enough.
Right. And that's the thing. I think that people are really getting upset over casseroles, but we buy a lot of condensed soup.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely. You don't have to add extra salt. You throw that on top of any meat, throw it in the crock pot. 4 hours, it's done. Here's dinner.
Well, and there's also low sodium, which before we got together, everything I bought was low sodium. I just don't
had
like
to fix
much
that.
I had to. Yeah, you went through the entire pantry at one point, and you were just like, why is there so much low sodium stuff? Was that for your grandmother? And I went, no. Well, sort of, but no.
Well, that and he had poor flour taste. I had to fix that too.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Until we got together, I had never paid attention. There were different forms of flour.
Yes.
I'm still slightly unclear on all of their proper uses.
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying.
Meatloaf.
Yeah.
I like a good meatloaf.
I do too. But then again, I also understand why a lot of people don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, again, it kind of falls in that category of trying to stretch your dollars. And yeah, if you're having to do a lot of that, there's a lot of people that'll make like a couple of meatloafs a week.
Right.
Ashley says meatloaf isn't terrible.
No, it isn't.
That's not really a ringing endorsement either.
Meatloaf is wonderful if cooked right. It's another one of those things you have to know how to use spices, and apparently millennials don't have a clue on that. Now, this one I find very delectable when I can find a good one. Watergate salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it apparently falls in that same category for a lot of people as ambrosia, and I understand that part.
Right.
They have some commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And I think for a lot of people it's the pistachio.
Right.
It really is. Like, a lot of people just don't like pistachio anything, especially pistachio pudding. No. I, however, do. Like, I like all the weirdo puddings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, chocolate and vanilla just don't do a whole lot for me. But, like, the rest of the puddings excite me.
Right.
But, yeah, then we move into fruit cocktail.
I'm of a mix here. Yeah. I like fresh fruit cocktail. I do not like canned fruit cocktail. That is a ingredient.
Exactly. I was going to say, like, what is the world going to do without cup of can?
Right.
You know? That was actually the first recipe from a movie or anything that I like a movie or a television show that I ever actually tried.
Mm.
Because I was like, does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Like a cup of cup of flour, cup of sugar, and a can of fruit cocktail, and it does.
Right.
Thank you, Still Magnolias. That's
And
it.
we're getting comments about the canned fruit cocktail. A fruit cocktail is you take whatever fruit you have, slice it up, mix it up, let it set for 2 hours, and that's a fruit cocktail. This canned stuff from like the post-war era, nah, I'm not too happy with that.
Yeah, that's where you do the addition of Karo syrup as a shelf stabilizer.
Right.
Yeah, and even if it's light syrup, it's just too much.
Yeah.
Like it just can't.
Right. But that's not fruit cocktail.
Right.
Where there's originals. These are delicious
Yeah.
on cookies. And they come in sugar-free.
And they're I like them. I don't know why like someone's so against them.
Right.
Like margarine though, I like that one I get.
Yeah, plastic can leave.
Yeah, margarine is sad. And that is its own separate category because SpaghettiOs were directly dislikable. Canned pasta as a category, just kill canned pasta.
Mm-hmm.
So
now the next one has been outlawed in my house since I don't know when, maybe 1974. Miracle Whip.
Yep. Now, granted, we went through this when we first got together. I had Miracle Whip in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a big mayonnaise person or mayonnaise substitute, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. I didn't use a lot of mayonnaise. Most of the time when I used mayonnaise, it was either very lightly on a piece of bread or it was like an ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm making something that involves mayonnaise. But yeah. And you're a Duke's boy, and like there is no other mayonnaise. It must be Duke's.
Yep.
So yeah.
And then Jello salad.
I'm a little sad about that one.
What are you going to use the canned fruit for, you idiots?
Well, there you go. But I will say aspics are something that I definitely understand killing. For those of you unaware, if you take gelatin, not Jello specifically, not like your fruit Jellos, but typically just plain gelatin, unflavored, and you use it to like combine not fruit, that's an aspic.
Yeah.
And that I can truly say I thought had died. I didn't know anyone was still doing those. I thought those like came to prominence in the 1950s and like died immediately thereafter. Like, no.
Yeah.
Don't play with aspics.
Well, aspics can be useful, and before they used gelatin, they used to use bone marrow and bone broth and boil it down and boil it down. Someone came up with gelatin and made it very fast. It's not really overly sugar and sweet. It's more a savory thing. Still, I'm not a fan of it.
Well, but no, that's still what gelatin is. It's just powdered.
Yeah.
It's like they took all the hard work of cooking down bone.
Yes.
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Someone make Joe the meat Jello salad. Kathy, you're about to get banned there.
No, that's Shannon.
Oh, that's Shannon. Okay, you're about to get banned there.
I don't know. I may try to see if I can find enough real bone to actually make it the right way.
Oh, God, no. Please don't. Like, oh. Savory and Jello. I agree with them. Savory and gelatin don't belong in the same sentence. Like, those are just, that's a horrible combination of words.
So you don't like jellies?
No, that's different.
Same.
That's different. Well, no, I've never described. Okay, technically, I prefer jams,
Uh-huh.
and I've still never described a jam as savory.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes, I have.
Yes,
Damn.
you have.
Yeah, the hot pepper bacon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, damn it. Okay, that's a fair one, though. All right. So then there's Bud Light on this list.
That can leave.
I like what?
Yeah. Bye-bye, bud.
Oh. Blue cheese.
I don't think so. Vlad will have a fit.
I thought he hated blue cheese. It was ranch he loved.
He likes them both when you put them
Ah.
on something.
Okay. Well, he basically likes anything on anything. Except mustard. God forbid. He can't have mustard.
Uh-huh.
Oh, fat-free whipped cream. Ugh. Like, I've never enjoyed, like, soybean oil under pressure.
Yeah. Plain toast. Well, sorry, avocado just really doesn't turn anybody.
I'm don't get it. Like, I do like my plain toast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will eat just bread.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with it. I need nothing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the bread.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some breads are just good toasted.
Yeah.
But
Wonder Bread?
okay, yeah, that one can die.
I don't know. It's changed over the years. And we are what is it? Giant Little Debbie woman. Household. Sunbeam. There we go.
Giant Little Debbie woman. Oh, gosh.
All right. Mrs. Dash.
That was a bad idea when it began.
It saves time, though. I mean, because looking at the ingredients,
Yeah.
most of it I use in most of it, it's like house seasoning for me.
Well, it's basically everything.
Right.
It literally is. Like, here's the list of ingredients in Mrs. Dash for everyone, okay?
Right.
Onion, black pepper, parsley, celery seed, basil, bay marjoram, oregano, savory, thyme, cayenne pepper, coriander, cumin, mustard, rosemary, garlic, carrot, orange peel, tomato, lemon juice powder, citric acid, and oil of lemon.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically an entire spice cabinet.
In one container.
In one container, but, like, not everything needs all that.
Right.
Like, chill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
They should have labeled this Ryan's, but I think that gets misnumbered often. Buffets.
Yeah. Well, and they're just going with the hygiene issue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, and I think that's a fair point.
Right.
Like, see, this is why I like cafeteria style restaurants. Like, I'm a K&W boy. I dearly love my K&W.
Right.
It's a buffet, but it's not nasty. Like, you have station servers with gloves properly handling food.
Right.
That's why I was heartbroken when the one in Bluefield closed.
I know. Soda. Coke, Pepsi, sugary carbonated drinks. Supposedly they're going out the door. Again, our health idiots are grabbing us. And it's like
or at least they would like these to die.
Right.
Yeah.
Buttermints.
I still don't get that one.
I don't get that one either. Like, it's lovely to have a little dish of mints around, especially when you're serving something garlicky.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm, like, a huge fan of buttermints.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get why anyone has a problem with buttermints. What did buttermints ever do to you? You either like them or you don't.
Right.
Like they're just a thing.
Right.
Like, but yeah. Now, right now, do I want to be going to a restaurant and like dipping into the dish on the counter? No. No. I'll keep my buttermints at home.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like buttermints. I mostly because they tend to be a better after like food thing. Because like Starlight mints and stuff, I don't know.
Right.
I got burnout on those.
Well, that's because, we bought 3 bags of them and they left in 2 days.
Hush. So then there's meat pate.
Not see, and they say it goes untouched by anyone under the age of 45. A good meat pate is a delicious thing in a midsummer with some cucumber and some nice cheese. You know what really strikes me about this list
Oh.
is a lot of potted meat is a canned version of it, more like spiced ham. Yes.
Yeah.
Is a lot of these foods are the cheaper foods that used to feed larger families.
Yeah, they are. And that's kind of where I'm going back to is I think a lot of people burnt out.
Right.
Like, because if you take your average Gen Z to millennial,
Mm-hmm.
or more importantly, millennial,
Middle
we're getting ready to hit,
this.
like, we're the oldest of us are hitting 40.
Right.
Okay. Generationally speaking, that means our parents
Mm-hmm.
are roughly hitting 60.
Mm-hmm.
And our grandparents are hitting 80.
Right.
So when you look back generationally to what happened recipe wise through families,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get a lot of these.
Right.
Like, grandma did this to your mom did this to you.
Hey, I've not set a weekly calendar of the same foods. If it's Tuesday, it's got to be meatloaf. If it's Wednesday, it's fried chicken.
Well, true. Well, it's like I've known someone who absolutely could not stand a hot dog. Like they swore for the rest of their life they will never again eat another hot dog ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the sheer basis that their mother was not a cook.
Mm-hmm.
She had no culinary ability whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were poor.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the woman's entire shopping list was hot dogs and buns,
Mm-hmm.
milk, cereal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it.
Right.
Like he ate school lunches, he had cereal for breakfast, and dinner every single night
Mm-hmm.
was literally a weenie on a bun.
Yeah. See, that's not a hot dog. That is not a hot dog.
But it has made that for him to a point that he just cannot ever.
Right.
Like the mere thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cannot having a hot dog. Never gonna do it.
I don't know. I think that a lot of those foods, again, it's like someone's trying to set a standard of stuff. All right, so let's go back to 1049 and start answering some questions.
Alrighty, and we thank you guys for hanging in there. We know that was a long list, but we thought y'all'd appreciate it too, because we were just
like, they're stupid.
Yeah.
Or we are old, one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. All right, so Ashley has a question for her mother-in-law. 92971. Is Mike a qualified suitor? He's definitely a different match.
Yeah, actually, he's a really good suitor. I think it'll be a nice adventure for you. I feel like there's some travel with him. I think he'd be a lot more to your style and your liking.
All righty, then Madison has a question.
Awesome.
Madison, 12/15/2001. When will Sean unblock me?
He's doing this little Petri game. It looks to me like it's probably going to be within about 3 weeks. But again, I want you to really question if you want to be unblocked by him.
Fair enough.
Because that's a
All
total
right.
passive aggressive move.
Oh, yeah. Well, it can be. It can also be a way of controlling to make sure that you don't have your buttons pushed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll employ that one. Just like, not right now. Nope, you need to take a step.
Mm-hmm.
So Kathy 72862, did Peanut pass peacefully? And I feel horrible because he truly tried to go to Texas with me. Is he at peace and with my dad?
I feel he did pass peacefully. It was his time, his choice, his option. I feel like he was gone before, he went to sleep and moved on.
All right, and there's an add-on. Was he hurting because I wasn't here for him?
No. No, I don't think he was hurting because you weren't there for him. I think it was just like, okay, I'm done.
Alrighty, and we are sorry to hear about Peanut's passing.
We are. All right. And she wants to get another Peanut and name him or her Jinx. Will Steven buy one for her? See, here's the thing. I think you need to check the local animal shelters. I don't think you'll have to buy one. I think that you'll be able to find one.
No, name him or her Jax.
Jax. Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. I'm trying to catch up and find the next one because we were getting a lot of comments on the food articles, so it's taken me a second. All right. I believe Donna Marie is next.
Okay.
Donna Marie, 11/23/92. When will I get my new house?
Take a look here. I feel like you buy the house in December, but you don't move into it till January. So I'll say January.
All right. Okay, then Ashley, 8/26/96, is a furry brother or sister joining our family soon?
Take a look here. Not really. I don't think that you guys have time for the animal, and I don't feel like the animal's going to probably be joining for about another year and a half, too. All right.
I think that gets us all caught up. Though Ashley asks, outside of a reading, what's going on with CVS? And I gotta ask, what we talking about? Because I see they picked
done an interview with them.
Pardon? Oh, all right, got it now. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought that was a CVS question. Okay, never mind. It is a reading.
It is a reading. I feel like they're weighing out their options. I do feel you'll be hearing back from them.
Well, sorry, Ashley pops in a lot of questions about like other stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm looking in the news, and I'm like, I don't really think she's all excited about the CVS Health taps new chief health equity officer article I found. Oh, she wants to know with an offer?
Yes, with an offer.
Okay, cool. Good deal, good deal. So all caught up. Oh, baby gets started walking and climbing.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Now, just wait, baby gets going to run over everybody's hearts in about a year or two before you even blink an eye.
Oh. So, yeah.
So yeah, in other sad news, we lost Colin Powell,
Yeah.
and of course the orange Trumple can't keep his damn mouth shut. Have some damn respect.
I just don't understand after the 4 years of press bullshit why anyone in news media
Mm-hmm.
even bothers at this point.
Well, because the Congress hasn't governed set and passed and vetoed him out of 2026 or 2024.
Ah. No. All right, and we have another question come in.
Okay.
All right, Anne, 1979. When is my mom's headstone going to come in?
You know, I'm going to tell you before I get there. Looking at it, I'm going to say it's going to be about 8 to 9 weeks, and then I think there's a problem with it. So they may have to redo it or something like that.
Yeah. I will say from the last 2 headstones I've had to get done, my grandmother and my dad's, or that my family's had to get done. I know that my dad's took forever and all, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
My grandmother's, literally all they had to do was put the numbers on it. Because she went ahead and had her headstone put down when they buried my grandfather. And y'all who've watched knows there's a whole story there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the short version was they were supposed to have skipped a space, and they didn't skip a space. So she had gotten mad about the fact that her husband was buried right next to her sister, and that people would get the wrong idea. So when he passed, she immediately had both headstones put down.
Right.
And literally all they had to do was put the number on it.
Right.
For the year she passed.
Right.
And it took forever. And yeah. I give them credit though, at least with hers, like it matched.
Mm-hmm.
Ish.
Right.
Wasn't perfect, but it matched ish. Now I know, like, between my parents' headstones, like, night and day.
Right.
Like, it was ridiculous. Like, that was supposed to have been, again, a bunch of things that we thought were pre-handled that were not.
Right. All right, here's one I'm sending to you for a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's taking forever for some things to come through. And a lot of it's because we no longer do a lot of things. But again, as soon as they give you notice that it's down, go look at it because I think there's a problem with it. And I hate to tell you that, but it just doesn't look right.
Oh, very cool. That's where I'm at on this one. So, okay, what Windows is going to start doing is expiring updates. And what that means is, as you normally, if you like have an update get stuck, if you have an update, if you pause updates, if you just don't go online, and then the next time you go online, you get a massive chain reaction of updates.
Mm-hmm.
And what effectively is happening there is it installs everything you've missed.
Mm-hmm.
What Microsoft is now going to start doing and what Windows will now be doing is actually looking at whether or not there's a better update for you. More importantly, the big updates that come out pretty much roll all that together anyway. That's why you may have noticed sometimes you get an update, and if you've had a problem with a previous smaller update, you again have the same problem.
Right.
Is because you got the same thing twice, and so it did the same thing twice. Because Microsoft is glorious about fixing problems. They have issues on that.
Yes.
But and I've had it happen with clients, and it has driven me crazy, let alone what it's done to the client. And it's like, yeah, sorry to say, your issue is going to probably come back.
Right.
But what they're going to do is actually jump ahead. And so that if you do get into a situation where your computer is not updated for a while, it will skip the incrementals and stop trying to layer it all together and just jump to the most recent update.
Right.
And then handle it from there.
Right.
So I'm happy for that. Just because I know I've gotten a few computers, especially those with stuck updates, as in for whatever reason something went wrong, and the computer has not updated for months. I recently, or even a year, I had one in like that recently. It takes a while. It's a lot of rebooting. It's a lot of downloading. It takes a while.
Right.
And yeah.
Are you following this David Chappelle stand-up thing?
No. What's going on with Chappelle?
He's one of those comics I can't watch. My blood pressure hits the roof every time I watch this man.
Same.
Okay. So Ashley was wanting our opinion on his special. Ashley, honey, I'll normally do things for you, but that one is going to take a little bit from what I understand. Now, granted, I've only seen the clips. He's doing a lot of anti-transgender. But at the same time, his comedy is just so nasty.
Well, it's yeah. I understand comedy. I really do. I generally will let a lot of people get by with a lot of things.
Right.
Under the heading of comedy. That, hey, look, this is supposed to provoke an opinion, and it's supposed to be an observation, and if you're reacting to it, this can be a good thing. Even if you don't find it funny, it can be a good thing. A lot of what like Chappelle ends up getting in trouble for is because it's really only funny if you are very anti someone.
Right.
Like it's like bad, like Nazi humor-esque kind of things.
Right.
Like, how many, like it just doesn't work for me.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm not. No. Like, you've gone so far down a rabbit hole, I'm not following.
Right. And no, long ago, I would say at least 10 years ago, I used to watch Comedy Central. I was very much into comedians, but there are some comedians that I can't watch.
Right. And I mean, there are others that have gotten away with a lot.
Right.
But it seems like every time Chappelle opens his mouth, I'm just like, I'm done.
Right.
I know either A, I know it's coming, or before I can even like go, okay, maybe I could try this,
Right.
First joke is like bam, and I'm
Right.
like, I'm out. Like, I'm tapping out. Nope, I'm done.
Right.
This was a bad life choice. You know.
Yeah. He's one of, and this is why I like love Jeannie Robertson's comedy.
Mhm.
Oh, what is her name? Tanya Lee Davis. I love her comedy.
Mhm.
There's even a few other female comics that I love to death. Like I'll sit down and watch them. But when
Asling B or Asling B is phenomenal.
right,
I will even like, and there are even comics that are controversial that I still like.
right,
Jim Jeffries has said many horrible things. Jimmy Carr has said many horrible things.
right,
But there's also like an understanding there. Like they'll push the envelope, and they have sometimes gone a little far with it,
mm-hmm,
but they've still managed to err towards the side of comedy.
right.
Safely.
Because Jen Rivers, is one of my favorites. Again, crossed over, but she said comedy takes on the things that we can't handle right now and
Yeah.
talks about them and makes them good. That's not what David Chappelle does in his comedy. I don't know what he's done in this new special. I know it's pissed off the transgender community. I'm sure there is an FG word, at least 15 of them in his skits. Can't do it. I will have to buy a new TV, Ashley.
Yeah. But as for Netflix workers playing a walkout,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can understand that one.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah. No.
Yeah. CEOs getting backlash over this. Um, that he screwed up standing up for defending David Chappelle. Um, and it's one of those. There's a time and place for comedy. There's a time and place for jokes. There's a time and place to directly touch and address issues. But it's got to be done with class and style. He doesn't. Sitting
Well,
there saying cuss words and insults together
mhm.
in a sentence is not how you do comedy.
Well, and additionally, like I don't get me wrong, I can make fun of like my own categories,
Right.
like and I can have fun with those. And if you start a gay joke with me, 9 times out of 10, I've already heard it.
Right.
Like I
Well,
will grade your stereotype humor.
exactly.
I'm not gonna get upset at a gay joke.
Right.
You know, I really won't. But I will grade it.
Right.
Like one, please find an original one I haven't heard yet.
Right.
And you know, also, like if it's a joke, that's one thing. If it's not, then I'm mad.
Right.
Like that's not a joke.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. We've heard them. Hell, we've created them. Um.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But an insult comedy in itself has a place. Right now, it's trying to find its footing, but it has a place.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. That is not what this is.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I love an old school roast.
Yeah.
Like I even love love is a strong word. I have very much liked and loved parts of the new celebrity roast that Comedy Central has done.
Right.
I've like Martha Stewart, like Jesus Christ, I wasn't prepared.
Right.
Like
Right. Now, I am very upset with the way Netflix is handling this.
mhm.
Firing the organizer of the trans employees walkout, firing, going, oh, one of our writers refuses to work with us, we'll terminate the contract and sue them. Yeah, that CEO needs to start eating some crow, and Wendy Williams can hand him some mustard. Because you don't, when you fuck up, and this is what I hate about companies, when they fuck up, they need to own up. This is a bad special.
most
Take it off your thing. I don't care how much you spend for it. Take it off. Don't be firing people for standing up, for going, no, this isn't good. You know, David Chappelle should be, and this is the thing that got me on this, and I've seen it covered a few times. Is he tries to cover his shit up by going, oh, but this was my greatest supporter, blah, 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 blah. And he would have, I'm not sure of the pronoun, so we'll go with they, would have thought it was okay. They actually approved this. I don't know about this, and here's what I can say about that. I have thick skin. It takes me a bit to realize someone's playing on words. I've had friends get upset for me over things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and? Show me something new.
Right.
I don't have time to get mad at all these things. I don't have time to get mad at the city council for only having Christian-based people go in and do their invocation and benediction. I don't have time to fight because people can't use pronouns correctly and fight to have the ability to have medical treatment. I have to make choices in where I'm fighting, where I'm putting my energy into. This one, you don't back a bad play. This is a bad play. This is a bad special. He has been known to do this. He is doing this for ratings. He is doing this to get people to go to his site and pay $20 to get his vinyl record or to run over to Netflix and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not give him the time.
True. And the big part that is creating an uproar with Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And now, granted, 40 minutes ago, Yahoo Entertainment posted that he screwed up in his response.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that he should have led with humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And that he failed to recognize the hurt of the employees. But yeah.
Right.
What he was, I think, what he says he was trying to do was, we have articulated to our employees that there are going to be things you don't like, he added. There are going to be things that you might feel are harmful, but we are trying to entertain a world with varying taste and varying sensibilities and various beliefs. And I think this special was consistent with that. Unfortunately, that's not really what anyone heard.
Right.
Because his original comments were basically that this wasn't going to cause any real world harm.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, here's my trouble with that response.
But it does.
Yeah. Here's my trouble with that response. And we may even have to be looking at their subscription at this point. Is this. They took, when it was a hot topic, they took off Gone with Wind. They took off Roots. They took off a lot of the old classic style shows. However, they're paying this dude millions of dollars for a comedy special that sounds more, if he used the word substitute the word trans with Jews or gays with something else, it would be very, very not looked upon and would have been stopped.
Yeah. Well, and very much. And Shannon again?
I don't know who done this.
Okay. But a very important point was, I read someone tried to say his special was satire, and I was just, quote, satire is taking an idea and taking it to an absurd extreme to show how outdated or how idiotic something is. What he did isn't that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. when people in the industry, when some of your Emmy-winning writers, when people that run your business look at you and say, this is a bad idea,
Listen.
listen.
Yeah, it was Shannon.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
there's an
I'm
article
just
from the LA Blade that I will put in the break room for our listeners, and this kind of fits my sentiment towards David Chappelle in general.
Mhm.
But they go into it a lot deeper. They break into it a lot more. And it's kind of my flavor on him.
All right.
And I'm really saddened by Netflix and their behavior and their responses to this. In general.
Yeah. Well, mostly because I don't get how you run a company that is very much a big name in content distribution.
Right.
Without recognizing that you have some responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I get there. I'm not saying I'm all about equal time, equal access to differing opinions, though
Sure.
to some degree I am.
Mm-hmm.
Some things aren't opinions. Some
Right.
things are hate.
Right.
And if you cannot figure out that line,
Right.
I'm very concerned there.
Right.
Like it is a very sensitive line between differing opinions and hate
Mm-hmm.
on some issues. Though typically it's more clear when you're not offering a different opinion, or you're not debating anything
Mm-hmm.
as much as you're just looking to insult, demean, and tear apart.
Right.
That's where I'm at. If you can't tell the difference.
Right. Well, my thing has always been with him and will continue to be with him until he learns how to form a sentence that doesn't involve hate, curse words, and actually come up and do a stand-up comedy thing. I'm not interested. I'm not giving him money. I'm not I'm not giving him time. I'm not giving him value.
Yeah.
And I think we as a culture has to look at this and start analyzing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? People get paid to think. You watch an hour and a half special. Let's take and say your time is worth $120 an hour. The hour and a half special is how much, Mr. Math?
I'm sorry, I missed parts of that.
120 hours for an hour and a half. 120 an hour for an hour and a half of time.
180.
$180. Sorry, he's not worth that value. Not for me. I'd rather go watch something else. I'd rather go watch a documentary on the slave trade. I'd rather go watch a documentary on new plastic surgery going on. I'd rather go watch that one movie we were watching the other day about the post-apocalyptic. The one that we sat down and actually you got me to watch a show without me really sitting down going, okay, I'm gonna watch a movie.
Right. That one was actually a really good movie, and oddly, I almost stopped it. Because the first few minutes, probably the first 20 minutes of that one,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna like this.
Right.
And it just so happened I was I was busy at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that was while I was upgrading your computer,
Right.
and I ended up going, well, okay, when my hands get free, I'm gonna find something else. This just isn't rocking my boat. But ended up going a little bit further in it, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. What's
No,
the
I
name
kinda
of the
like
movie
this.
is what I'm at.
I know. I'm trying to remember right now. Let's
I'll give you the
see.
synopsis of the movie. Apparently, this is post-apocalyptic. Very few humans left. A group of 3 humans find a tablet with a child's story on it, and the tablet is still working at the time, and they think that's how they make the sun come out. Some other drama happens. They find another book, and they think that dancing makes the sun come out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they begin turning this into a religion. I liked this story. I thought it was a decent story. It's probably like a Class B movie, but it shows how misinformation can be spread quickly.
Well, it seemed like it seemed like, it did not seem like a great movie at first.
Mm-hmm.
But then after like you get into it,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely, and I'm still looking for it in my Tubi account now.
Okay.
But as you get more into it, you start to realize that what's really throwing it off is that the actors are actually playing the roles that well.
Right.
That, like we ended up having like some back and forth commentary in the middle of this movie of, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
like, how hard would that be to sit there and imagine, like, rough estimate 30 years later in a, post-apocalyptic situation, and you're talking about people that are were either small children when the event happened or were born into this world after,
Mm-hmm.
and effectively were kind of left there to their own devices. Oh
Mm-hmm.
nope, that's the other one. That one was good too. Dang it. No, I did not restart this whole list. Okay, cool. Sorry, I was having a moment there. I was like, please don't tell me I just retraced all my steps. Oh, come on. I'm trying.
We'll put it in the break room.
Yeah, we'll find it. We'll add it in. It's here somewhere.
Right. And it's like the movie 1946. I'm waiting for it to come out. That's what I'm actually waiting to come out. And you guys can expect a review on that on the Mountain Bears episode. All right, guys. Well, it's been a lovely evening. We've had some lovely guests, and we've had some good talk with you guys. It was enjoyable. Now, some housekeeping and reminders. So, of course, we'll be back Friday with Mountain Bears. That also kicks off West Virginia Psychic Fair. This time's charity is Man a Meal. That's an organization in Charleston that feeds anybody. And that'll be going on throughout the weekend. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in getting a good deal on some readings. And that's kind of where everything is at. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you later.
Well, of course, we do have to thank our baristas.
Yes.
We, of course, want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Ashley Gish, Shannon C, Shannon D, the wonderful Lady Gwendolyn, and, of course, Charles Shaw. If you'd like to learn more about the show, about us, or how you too can become a Patreon member and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at PCSPnetwork.com.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Stacked. You can whisper behind my back. You can show me how the odds are up against me all day long. But I've been through the fire and come out alive, and there's no more fear in my eyes. Oh, now I'm rising, and you can't bring me down. You can't stop me now.